Another set of options that we have available in the utilities screen involves being able to compare various files against each other or to be able to search for data strings within these files, especially with multiple members. So in these cases here, what we can do is that we have the same concept of a new data set or an old data set where we can compare the two with each other. And you'll notice that we have the same basic headings in here where we can indicate by default what the project group or type name is for the data set or specify a different data set under the data set name row. In addition, we can also set this up so that we can determine whether or not we want to run this as an ISPF utility or as a background task. But for our purposes, this is going to just be done in the foreground as our normal ISPF function. I can also use the extended type, which is a variation on the comparison utility that allows me to specify some additional options if I want to choose to compare two data sets to each other. This is primarily useful when we have files that might be questionable, where it looks like they could be a replicated copy, they might be a backup copy, or we want to confirm that the data that's been moved over or that's in use, in fact, is identical. And so in this case, when we have multiple members between data sets for files that may look very similar, this provides us a relatively simple mechanism to determine how close they actually are. So that if they do compare, then we know we truly have a duplicate file. If they don't compare, then we can assert what the differences are and try to make a determination there about how much variation is in these different files. In addition, we can search for strings in these files. So just as we saw with our comparison, we have our standard search for utility, and we also have an extended search. And both, again, are intended to allow us to specify a string of data that we are interested in which case all of the members within these data sets will be searched for the presence of that particular string. Again, this is one of those utility functions that can be quite useful if we have a particular value, for example, in JCL or in source programs that needs to be modified, or references to a particular data set that we're interested in. We can use this then as a vehicle for determining all of the different places where this is going to be used so that we can determine what kind of changes may need to be addressed. In all of these cases, we can also specify various options that relate to our uppercase, our lowercase, whether it's going to be done as is, as well as some other options that are available for make this more like the use of regular expressions that we would see in our Unix type environments. All the results will be specified in a data set itself. So you can see on this screen here, we have an entry indicating a listing DSN, and that's the data set name that is going to be used with the user's high-level qualifier to contain the results of the search. So this is something then, again, that can be retained and then referenced later, even after you log off and want to log back in. You can retain these search data sets so that you can keep the reference and the results of what was done. In general, the utilities functions also have some items that are either lesser used or that are outside the scope of what we want to discuss in this particular module. So in particular, options 16 and 17 deal with more advanced concepts, whereas options 6, 7, 8, and 9, as well as 11, are most inclined for different elements of data sets that are rarely used anymore, either because the functionality already exists in the majority of screens, or in fact there may be other products or even other ISPF applications that most installations run with that take advantage of those capabilities. So we don't need to use those functions under the utilities options here. So the ones that we have discussed in options 1 through 5, as well as in options 12 through 15, these represent the most common utility functions that we will need to perform against data sets under ISPF. So in the next module, we want to take a look then at one of the major functions that we perform within ISPF, which is editing actual data.